Good evening. Thanks for joining me in this fresh edition of the program, The Insight, on Equinox Television. Tonight is a special edition of the program, one day before the kickoff of the new school year, 2017-2018. The Insight is in Bamenda, the Northwest Regional Capital. We have been touring the town of Bamenda, the city of Bamenda. We have met with key actors who will be telling us in the course of this program just how far they have been preparing for back to school, which is very particular, especially in the two English-speaking regions of the country. Our very first stop will be with trade union leaders. We will make our first stop with the president of the Presbyterian Education Authority Trade Union, Afu Stephen, as well as Sema Valentine, who is the head of the caretaking committee of the Cameroon Teachers Trade Union.
Candidly speaking, when we called for the strike, we were calling the strike to handle educational issues. And when the ad hoc committee actually sat, and in that committee we examined all the issues and proposals and recommendations we made, schools were yet not going on. But we took a stand to suspend the strike because we wanted schools to effectively resume, given that the issues we were claiming were bordered on education. It's unfortunate that after the suspension of the strike, since we had called for schools to resume, they did not resume. And the reasons are obvious. Because issues had been left to skip from the hands of the teachers to another level. That is exactly what characterized the atmosphere which did not see schools to resume until now that we think in the days ahead schools are effectively going to resume.
So you are for back to school this academic year?
Our stand when we suspended the strike action was actually for schools to resume then. That position has not changed. Now we are instead reinforcing the idea that schools should resume because some of the issues that we were expecting government to do have already been done, and the rest are going to be done following the time frames that we agreed upon in the ad hoc committee.
Now, what is the devastating effect of the no school, especially in the Presbyterian school?
This is a point that actually makes my heart to bleed. Bleed, why? Because when we sit and look back, we see the consequences of this strike action bearing heavily on the children who are supposed to be in school. They have gotten themselves involved in some unorthodox practices that if schools normally were going on, these issues would not have occurred. We have recorded cases of teenage pregnancies. We have registered cases of drug addiction within the peers of the children. We have witnessed cases of high-handedness and rascality with the children. Some already are Okada riders, and it is going to be very, very difficult for us to bring them back to the frame of a normal school-going situation. So there is a lot of work that we have to do to rebuild confidence and indicate to the children that education that was stalled along the way has to take back its rightful position. Then on the part of the parents, leaving their homes, running their homes is a little bit difficult because the children now are forced to stay at home, and the cost of living in their homes is a little bit higher than if the children have been going to school. Again, on the part of the teachers, especially those of private education whom we represent, for all this time, they have not been able to have salaries. And as a leader, I feel really sorry for them because, unfortunately, our authorities indicated that because of the stoppage of the school and the principal source of finances is school fees. So what they are collected have already been used, and what was remaining could not sustain the teachers within this period.
So where have the teachers been? How have they been living?
The teachers have gone wild.
Yeah, the teachers?
Yes, the teachers have gone wild. Wild in the sense that they no longer are within the school premises. Those who are lucky to be hosted by the schools are those who are remaining. But for the others who were renting houses, the landlords unfortunately did not want to understand, and they have been ejected from the houses that surround the schools where they were staying to get to school. So presently it would be difficult for them to even live where they are staying now to come back to school. But there are some who are committed, which I want to use this forum to also congratulate them and all in general for their endurance and their sense of commitment, because within this period of time, they have still been on and hoping that things will normalize for them to get back to school, irrespective of their hardship.
So there's high probability that about maybe 50% of teachers will be new?
No, not up to that number. Not up to that number. We have had records of some who have actually found greener pasture somewhere. There are some who have gone to the diaspora. And then there are some who, within this period, try their hands in other areas, and they are seeing that those areas are more lucrative than the teaching job. So they have just simply shifted to that angle. But the numbers are not alarming. The numbers are not alarming.
Now, there was a certain point when you called the strike action. The social media was, it went viral on the social media, and they were saying that when you called the strike, suspended the strike action, authorities of the Presbyterian Church were not happy with that. It was like there was a cold war between you and the moderator.
There was really no cold war between the moderator and myself, because the moderator, candidly speaking, understood the context in which that strike action was called. That is why in his pastoral letter, he made it very, very abundantly clear that Piatu is an independent body that had the right to join other trade unions to handle issues that affect education. And if we were going in for the strike, first, we did not take any authorization from him. We were acting as a trade union in solidarity with the other trade unions. And when we were suspending the strike, we saw the need why we should suspend the strike. There was no need for us now to take permission from somebody who did not authorize us before we called the strike to suspend the strike. There are just those enemies who wanted to put us at loggerheads, who were framing up those stories to say that Afu Stephen had gone ahead suspending a strike without taking the authorization of the proprietor of schools, who is the moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. He recognizes that Piatu, as an independent body, can act independently, because you understood that what we were going in for was something that was going to improve on the educational landscape of the country. So there were just some of those people who did not understand. I even was made to understand that my name was a topic of a sermon in one of the churches in Yaoundé, how Afu Stephen had betrayed the church. The pastor who did that did not know the context under which the church, the trade union went into that strike. So these are some of the ignorant issues that were coming up just to create tension and put people under pressure for nothing. And they are merely reiterating the point that the trade union leaders had already done by suspending the strike for schools to resume. So to say that the church are not wanting the schools to resume is not true. For your information, following a letter and a calendar of activities that was given us from the Office of the Education Secretary, schools already are on, because we wanted to catch some of the lost time that the children missed. As you call, I was just from PSS going to assess the level of the reopening there, which is timid, but we think that come the official reopening there, the places are going to be okay. PSS Mankon is on, CPC Bali is on. These are indications to show that the proprietor of schools actually wanted schools to resume.
Who has the power to say Presbyterian schools should go to Presbyterian schools should be reopened?
We are partners, but the overriding person who has authorized that school should be reopened is the moderator of the program.
You as well can say the strike action begins.
I am adding my voice on his to say that school should resume, to reiterate our earlier position. It will be difficult for me as an individual to say that we should stop the school from functioning. I am more than 70% sure. Why? Because before now, we have a lot of calls from well-wishers pressurizing us that we should do everything to see that schools resume. And what was the pressure about? They were saying that many of the issues already are being handled. Don't we still have a voice to order that schools should resume? We said no. The majority of the people now are for school resumption, because they have seen the devastating effects of the strike action within this period. So they are off. It is just a small group of people now who think that schools should not resume for their own ulterior motives. But for every right-thinking Cameroonian who has the children at heart, they are thinking that Security Council in Resolution 1998 indicates that in the time of violence, in the time of war, or in the time of a conflict, that should not be disturbed, that should go operational as schools, hospitals and churches. And we think that if that organization could see that it is important to allow schools to function, we just have to use that platform to educate the populace to know that it is not only a local situation, it is an international issue that expects that schools should move on.
All right. Now, one last question. The academic year, it will seem to be very timid in the two English-speaking regions of the country come Monday. What if that is the case? What will you do?
I don't want to be pessimistic. I want to be very, very optimistic because we already are seeing some clear clouds in the sky. Because one of the issues that was bothering the people, which had been on their minds, which had been a clarion call, was that the head of state should release all those who were arrested as a consequence of the strike action.
But not all have been released?
Not all have been released. Those who have been released are the active, the principal cases who the government determined are those who were arrested as a result of the strike action. Those who have not been released, it is not our position.
BBC.
Yes, it is not in our position to ask why he has not been released, because the government should have its own angling as to it. You understand that the other persons that are still there will be handled progressively. But these who have been released are those who were directly involved in, who were directly arrested as a consequence of the strike action. And the call has been made. The president has listened. And that was one of the prime issues that the people were saying, that if these people are not released, schools will not go. They have finally been released. You realize now that the boundary line has been divided. Some who were sitting on the fence finally have landed on the side of those who expect that school should resume, while it is just an insignificant minority that are still hanging on the part of schools not resuming for their own ulterior motives, as I have indicated to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before we end, I want to, in fact, tell you that schools already have started with the Presbyterian schools. And in the days ahead, issues are going to move on normally. The only plea that I want now, through a medium, to pass to the church authorities is that they should do everything within the shortest time possible to see how they can relocate these teachers by paying them some months of accrued salary so that they can resettle and equally prepare their own children for school's resumption. Because you cannot be going to teach other people's children when your own children are still at home. So we think that it is a very, very serious issue. I have had a plethora of calls from all over asking, President, what are you doing to see that we are also prepared to prepare our children to go to school? So I just wish to use this forum to plead that as a matter of urgency, the proprietor of school, who is the moderator, and his close collaborator should do the extra, just as the President has done with the release of these people, to see that their workers equally regain schools on a better footing.
I want to make it clear that for now I am manning the affairs of the Cameroon Teachers Trade Union, CATU, because its Secretary General, its elected Secretary General, is not able to assume his functions. And so the caretaker committee put in place to man the activities before our elective convention come January 2018 is slated. So for now, I am the person in charge of CATU. Now, our stand for the resumption of school was made known way back on the 4th of February 2017 when we suspended the strike. We called for the resumption of classes on the 6th of February. Unfortunately, the call was not heeded. That stand still remains. We are for the resumption of school come September 2017.
Why do you think that the call was not, that the public did not heed to the call?
Well, the public might have had other reasons which are not unknown to us. it was now a community issue, and the community wanted certain conditions to be met by the government. I would not want to enter into those details. I would want to remain strictly on the educational platform, because that is where we started our strike, and we have been following that particular course of action ever since.
Now that about, we can say, 3/4 of pupils and students did not go to school, you as a person managing the Cameroon Teachers Trade Union today, are you satisfied with the results that have been given at the end of the school here?
The results are a shame to us teachers who are out to educate, to impart knowledge, and make our children grow to become responsible citizens and fit themselves wherever they find themselves. We are very, very embarrassed with the results, but those results are a true reflection of the level of preparation of the candidates. It simply reflects their output. For we are all aware of the fact that many of them did not go to school, and even those who went to school studied under a very, very intimidating environment. The environment was not enabling enough for them to prepare adequately for the exams. But those who in one way or another prepared had the results that they have. And so today those results are indicative to all of us, parents, teachers, education stakeholders, that we must put all hands on deck to cause these children to go to school and have the education that we want them to have. We have gone through the system, and if some of us are where we are today, it is simply because of the education we received. We want to ameliorate that education so that they study under better conditions and perform even better than we do. So we cannot, or than we did, so we cannot in any way stand as a stumbling block in their path of progress.
Now, what did CATU do when the results came out? You as a trade union, teachers trade union, you are supposed to ensure that there's quality education in the country. Can CATU today call for the cancellation of the academic year?
CATU does not have the power to cancel an academic year.
But can you advocate for it?
I would not say that we should cancel the academic year. I cannot advocate for it. Remember, please, all over the national territory, but for the Northwest and Southwest regions, classes were going on normally, unperturbed, and the GCE is meant to evaluate all that has been done within the academic year, not only in the Northwest and Southwest regions, but in the 8 other regions of the country. So without the Northwest and Southwest scoring or performing well in the exams, does not in any way indicate that the results should be cancelled. That would be gross injustice to those who studied and went in for the GCE exams. There are external candidates who prepared on their own, studied and passed. So how come that we should be asking for those results to be cancelled? I think it is not normal. It is unacademic. We will simply be dishonest, academically dishonest, to advocate for the cancellation of those results. It is true the results were, the exams were written in an atmosphere that was not conducive enough for all the candidates, especially those of the Northwest and Southwest regions, to write and for us to better judge their performances. But that notwithstanding, the GCE as an evaluation body evaluated the students following the norms of the exams, and what they have is what we have to contend with presently.
Now, do you think that come Monday, the environment there's an enabling environment for back to school, when you look at the Northwest in particular?
When we look at the doubt, there are a lot of doubts in people's minds. But if you go down closely to them, you realize that a good number of people, the vast majority of people, want schools to resume. How will the schools resume? We don't yet know, but we think the government has put in place certain modalities for the schools to take off. I think the president has heeded to the call of the people, the trade union leaders, the international organizations, civil society organizations. Everybody has been clamoring for the release of parents, teachers, students who were detained. And the positive move by the head of state, I think, has somehow relaxed the tension that characterized our region. And we sure hope, following the meetings that we have held with all the other education stakeholders, especially with the Catholics, the Presbyterians, and the Baptists, and some lay private owners of schools, we think a lot of work has been done and schools will take off come Monday. The Presbyterian schools have already started. Some Catholic schools in Bui and Dunga started. And so we think we should only accompany all of them. Those of us in the public sector, we should accompany the confessionals, the clergy, to make sure that our students go to school. I think every good parent, every politician, every man of God knows that the duty of a parent is to give the child an education that is befitting, an education that will make the child become whole, holistic education, quality education that will enable our children to stand up tomorrow in the world and compete favorably in the local market. That is what we want for our children, and we think the time is now.
Those are the views of trade union leaders in Cameroon, especially in the English-speaking regions of the country. You listen there to Afu Stephen and Sema Valentine giving the stance of trade union leaders in the country. Now time for us to look at other educationists. We look at someone who has a university, a private university institution here in the northwest region of Cameroon, Dr. Ningwanyam, who equally be talking about the situation in the two English-speaking regions of the country. And with Dr. Ningwanyam, we shall equally be having Honorable Fosina Mukong of the Mezam North constituency. The two will be looking at education, the release of some Anglophones, as well as the political eye. Take a listen.
You know, we lost an academic year last year, and we're looking forward to classes beginning this year so that we can catch up on the time we lost. And, you know, I have been under a lot of pressure from parents and students to know what is going on. You know, there's been a lot of trouble, and I'm the immediate person that they can get to. And so they vomit on me, they pour their anger on me, and so on. So I have to be very reasonable as to what I say. Otherwise, I would end up in a lot of trouble. Yeah.
So what are you telling them today?
Yes, of course. You know that with the Anglophone problem that has been going on, a lot of people have understood it differently from different angles and so on. But as someone who has been in it from day one, you know, I have been looking at the whole picture and reading the signs of the times, and I think, especially with the release of our prisoners recently, I'm talking of Dr. Bala, Dr. Neba, Justice Barrister Bala, Dr. Neba, and Ayapol, and others. This kind of like lessens the social tension, so it allows people to become a little bit more rational, so we can see what we are doing. But I'm very hopeful that classes can go on, because the truth is everybody appreciates education, and parents have made a lot of sacrifice, children have made a lot of sacrifices, and then, you know, as of now, many parents have moved their children to to the French-speaking Cameroon. Some have sent their children to Nigeria. Those that are rich have sent the children abroad. But we are saying, look, there are a lot of other poor folks who are here who really need to go to school. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of social tension. What we are trying to avoid now would carry its effects, 20, 30 years down the road, and that would be very difficult to correct. Even as I speak to you, there are many girls who have been coming to me asking for abortions. I'm a medical doctor. Of course, not that I commit abortions, but, they just show up with all these difficulties, and we are going to be having all these kind of problems in our homes, and so the social fabric of the social society is breaking down, and the price is very huge. We are having all those social problems. The economy is down. Our children are not well to do any longer, so we need to look at that very carefully, leaving passions aside, and see what we can do so that we don't penalize all these children. Again, as I said, those that are well to do are taking care of their children, but this is the interesting thing. Some parents of Anglophone extraction would say, no, there are no schools, schools are not going to go on. But behind our backs, they are sending their children to Francophone Cameroon or abroad because they have the means, and they tell others, please don't send your children. So we need to look at all these things and see how we can manage them so that people don't suffer. That's,
so will school resume?
Yes, I would imagine so. But that said, whether school will resume or not, I think we need to spend a few minutes and look into the background of things and do a critical analysis of things, the way I see it, the way other people to understand it. Because I have been listening to a lot of people, reading social media, watching television, and getting the different reactions of people. Now, let us make a small resume of what is going on in my mind and in the minds of other people who are thinking. So we have the Anglophones and the Francophones. When we say the Francophones, we are not talking about the Francophone lambda. We are talking about the government, so to speak. So there is a problem in Cameroon between the Anglophones. When we say Anglophones, it's not English-speaking. We are talking of people whose genetic material belongs to the Northwest and the Southwest. That's whom we call the Anglophone here, not necessarily the one who expresses themselves in English. Otherwise, there will be confusion. So these people whose genetic material is from the Northwest and the Southwest are saying, look, we have a problem. The shoe is hurting, and the central government didn't seem to be understanding what was going on. And a couple of people were sent onto the field to try to look at it. And one gets the impression that these people who came on the field did not know how to dialogue, did not know how to handle problems, and therefore there was this radicalization of positions, and that led to the 8th December problems, which finally led to the arrest of the people who were locked up and the matters. So, again, when matters became complicated because the leaders of the consortium were locked up, that created a power void, and there was nobody to express the wishes of the Anglophones any longer. So, a proactive group from the diaspora jumped onto the scene and grabbed power, so to say, and then they started to articulate the minds of the Anglophones, so to speak, and they clearly said that they were doing so on behalf of those that were locked up. And the whole thing turned around a few things: release our leaders, and to which they tacked other things and so on. And then they asked for their own things. People have been asking for federation, others asking for cessation. So, it became a mixed bag. And in that mixed bag, those that had the opportunity to speak and speak loudest, pushed everybody to the cessation wall. And if you talked federation, you were a sellout or something like that. So we could see that there was a lot of bullying on social media, bullying on the media, and so on. So the bullying became a trademark of the struggle. And there was no longer any democratic exchange of ideas, and this way was becoming very, very uncomfortable. Excessive radicalization on both sides of the divide. Now, with that radicalization, someone, I think, is our government delegate, Pefok, many years ago said that when two elephants are fighting, it is the grass that suffers. So technically, the people are caught between these two forces punching. And what happens is both sides offer the carrot and the stick. So, and they are all fighting for the minds of the people. And the people have been caught, so to speak. And what happened again was that, the fear element came in. What do I mean? The burning of the schools, burning of the marketplaces, harassing of people, and so on. But what I find very interesting is, each time a school was burned, the diaspora abroad said we are winning, and therefore they claimed it as a victory. So I was becoming very uncomfortable because they seemed to be rejoicing in violence, and that kept me a little bit worried. And I kept asking, where is the hand of God in this? Is God in this fight? Is truth in this fight? Because when you rejoice in violence, then I become very, very uncomfortable. Is it God that is prescribing such violence? Is are God's ways violent? You know, so. But the interesting thing that I noticed that recently, the leaders from the diaspora appearing either on BBC or some of these media, when they were asked about this violence, they didn't seem to enjoy taking credit for the violence. The whole violence is by the government. We are not part of the violence. But when you go through social media, you have all sorts of groups, the vipers, the whatever, threatening everybody. We will burn, and each time there was a burning, somebody out there would claim, would rejoice about it. We are winning big. So these are some of the kind of things that were traumatizing people. Then recently, as the tension, as the heat went up just recently, let's say about a week ago, I think Mr. Tassang said, oh, it looks like the war is going to break out, or whatever. I would advise you, take your children and run to the villages. Then from the villages, look for bush tracks and go into Nigeria. When you go into Nigeria, call these numbers to become refugees. The question I was asking is that what we were bargaining for? Was that the plan, that we should become refugees overnight? You didn't tell people that we have to become refugees. And we leave our homes here, leave our food. When we go over there, 5 million of us, where are we going to be staying? What are we going to be eating? Did you make plans for that? So these are questions that we need to answer. And what I noticed again out of this whole thing was the fact that, when the decree came out releasing these people from prison, there were a lot of mixed reactions. Some people, for starters, look at the big picture. The Secretary General at the Presidency writes on behalf of the President saying, these people are released. Then the journalist who was reading this communique on CRTV makes a slip of the tongue. Instead of saying 30th of August, he says 30th of November. And then people leave the whole thing, the whole message of, oh, these people have been released. They put it aside. Oh, he said 30th of November. You leave the baby and you are running after the wash water or whatever it's called. You leave the main thing and you're going after the shadow just because someone made a slip of the tongue. Oh, they will not be released. Oh, it's a fake. Now, fine. They have gone home. Now, this is the question. When they were released, then I noticed something amongst the leaders in the diaspora. There was confusion amongst them. That means, when they were making the demands, they said, our leaders must be released. Our leaders must be released. But once they are released, I see that there is a confusion. It looks like they are not happy. Someone is not happy somewhere. So there was this power tussle. When they were saying, let our leaders be released, if you look deep within them, some of them did not actually believe that they could be released, nor did they prepare for their release, nor did they want them to be released. Why do I say so? Because they were now enjoying a certain status of power and were seeing themselves in a certain position and saying nothing can happen without us. But the population had given their allegiance to these other people who had been locked up. And besides, these other people in the diaspora were working on behalf of the people that were locked up. So if the people who are locked up are freed, then we would say that the people in the diaspora should hand power back to the people of the consortium so that they continue to discuss with government. Because again, as I said, it doesn't matter what happened. If you have a giant army like the Russian army fighting with the American army, except it's nuclear war, if they're doing conventional war, I can bet you no one will defeat the other. You can be very certain about that. And even after 20 years, they have to sit down and negotiate. So dialogue is what I'm getting at. So they have been released. Schools will go on. Dialogue should go on. That's what I'm saying. We must go back to the dialogue table. And how should the dialogue look like? Number one, the dialogue should be between the people who have been released and the people in the diaspora can talk through them. Everyone else can talk through these people who have been released because they are the tested leaders. They are living the situation here, and the decisions they make are based on what they are living and going through. If you're sitting out there, you can just be talking and writing on the computer, but you're not living it day to day. That's a different thing. And these other leaders have been tested and are trusted. And then, of course, from the government side, we should have a different set of leaders discussing with these other leaders, because the elites or whoever that had been sent before, there was a crisis of confidence, and the population doesn't trust the people who had been sent before. You see how they were rejected from abroad. So we are saying that we should have to reconstitute everything and start it all over again.
So the dialogue, how should the dialogue look like? What are they dialoguing on?
Now,
because we know that the dialogue that lasted for about 12 hours on the 13th of January 2017, the Chief of Cabinet and the Prime Minister's office said dialogue was closed.
Dialogue was closed at his level. Dialogue was closed as far as he was given an assignment with defined terms. And that assignment was to deal with the school issues and the judicial issues. And I think yes. So actually, it was even more weighted on the school issues. And then the judicial issues, they have been thrashed, so to speak. And now, I think we should now move forward to make sure that all those things that were agreed on are implemented to the letter. That's one thing. They should be implemented to the letter. But as far as Professor Gogomo, was concerned, the terms of reference to which that he was abiding to, that package has been done. But that package does not. It represents probably 1/3 or half of Anglophone problems. Anglophones are saying we have another bag of problems that need to be dealt with now and forever. And therefore, as long as these problems are still there, there will still be some discontent, and I think there is need to continue with dialogue to solve those problems. These problems are political in nature, and therefore, the technical problems that had to do with the schools and the judiciary, fine. We agreed on maybe 24 things. Let's make sure those 24 things are implemented and get on with them, and make sure that life is going on. Let's make sure the courts are working as they're supposed to be working. And then let's look at the basket again and see what else is left in there so that we deal with them and have peace return to our nation. That is the bottom line. So many questions still have to be answered on the Anglophone people as a people in this union. When we answer that question, people will be able to have a clear mind as to where to go. And we said that those questions are political questions, and this dialogue that we are talking about has to deal specifically with these other things so that the whole package is cleaned up. Now, I'm a little bit worried and confused because a couple of months back, the president put in place the Multicultural Commission. And for all this while, there's been fire all over fire in people's hearts. There's been this burning and this anger and so on. And that commission has been so quiet, so dead, so I don't know what's going on. And so one doesn't feel their weight in these times of heat. They're saying nothing, they're doing nothing, proposing nothing. I'm a little bit worried.
Okay, all right. Doctor, any other thing to add?
Well, just to say that, again, coming back to the school, because that is the issue at stake now, well, I think parents have been preparing, schools have been preparing, we have been preparing. I have children at home. Everybody has got children at home. I think parents should use their discretion and be wise enough to know what to do with their children. This is the bottom line. Children must go to school. Whether they are going to school here in Anglophone regions, or whether you are shipping them to the Francophone region, or whether you are sending them to Nigeria or to America, the bottom line is don't keep your children at home.
Well, to me, it was welcomed. We thought that it was long overdue because our party, from time memorial, from the beginning of the crisis, have called on government to release these unfortunate brothers that were carried down to Yaoundé. And since then, it has been our wish that they should be set free because they were expressing their mind and they had no reason to be kept on within custody due to the fact that we believe in freedom of speech and people have a right to express their mind wherever they are finding difficulties. So we thought that it was a welcome idea. Although it came so late, it was welcomed. And to me, I was happy that these, our brothers, were to be released and they have to come back to join their families. So I welcomed the idea and I was happy. In fact, when I got the information, I was happy, I was moved. And I want to also let you know that this particular period have not been an easy period for the Northwest and Southwest regions, because the inalienable rights of the people have been tampered with. Most of the Anglophones are on exile. Some have run for safety. While we were happy, I thought the government could have been apologetic on the maltreatment, the brutalization, and the illegal arrests carried out with those who have committed crimes and those who were innocent. Because not everybody that was arrested was caught in the sin. So the government was supposed to be apologetic. I also expected the government to say something about those who are in exile, because we got information that people arrived at the airport and they are arrested. People arrived at the airport and they are deported. So we thought that it could have been explicit so that those who are outside can feel comfortable to come back home. I also thought that it could have come with a program for the dialogue, because releasing the people and all of us not going out for dialogue, we are still in a stalemate and the future is still very bleak. For me, it has come to awaken our thoughts that the president is having a listening ear. And we believe that if he has started to have a listening ear, he should go an extra mile by calling for the dialogue. Because it was very difficult to dialogue with those who are in detention. Now that they are out, they can talk freely and they should be able to dialogue, and we'll set a platform for the future. Well, maybe, since I'm not in his mind, I cannot say whether it was for the back to school or it was time for him to release the people. But I want to say that it was long overdue. The people were kept in conditions that were not favorable, and most of us who are human saw the situation to be an abuse to humanity. In fact, when you want to think about how the people were treated, how they were tortured, how they were arrested at midnight, it exposed our nation to be a nation that people may believe that we are not in a state of law. But finally, I still say finally, I'm happy that the text came out that they can be released.
What will you say?
To me, sending back our children to school is a right of the child. And nobody, no right-thinking person would dispute it. We believe that if the government puts an enabling environment, all the children should go back to school, because the future of this nation lies in the hands of those who are literate.
What characterizes an enabling environment?
There are so many things that characterize an enabling environment. If children are going back to school in an atmosphere that is not very conducive in the sense that they have enough teachers, they have those who will be able to teach all the subjects, they have enough classrooms, when I say conducive, it means all the amenities that involves education. If they are there, that will be the plea what the teachers were calling for. And that would be what the lawyers were standing for. You know, as I said, this thing have delayed. They have forced so many other things to come in. That is why you have so many other groups created. You have so many people canvassing, thinking otherwise on other aspects, which are not necessarily what was supposed to take place if the state acted in time to salvage the situation. Well, I have followed that about more than 1,000 gendarmes are deployed. It means the demilitarization that we are calling upon is not yet happening. I don't know why they are coming, because we believe in peace and we believe in dialogue. We should not use force. We should not use the gendarmes or the police or the people in uniform to influence it. We should come out plain, meet the people, and let's dialogue. I don't believe that the coming of forces will change the mind of the Northwesterner, will change the minds of the Southwesterner. All of us who believe in dialogue believe that we can chart the way forward without the influence of those in uniform. Well, I just say, I've asked and I've explained to them that they have to be careful. Don't just alter words that you are not supposed to be altered so that you can be arrested at any time. Don't see others talking and you just join the quorum to express yourself with things that may land you elsewhere. We just believe that the state should come back and will open up for meaningful, constructive dialogue that will keep us happy being in this state.
You've watched the program. We want to thank you immensely for staying glued to Equinox Television. It was a special program, The Insight on Equinox. And if you did enjoy the program, take our and signing out here at the Fondom of Balinyonga is for Hansin Chanji and Inosanga Bega.